Hi everyone. Now you might be the partner, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, gender fluid, life committed, associate, whatever you want to call yourself. You might be the partner of someone for whom you're concerned with regards to their gambling. You think that maybe they're gambling too much. Maybe you think that they're hiding gambling from you, having had a history of gambling in the past. Now what I want to talk about today is how to identify whether your partner has a gambling problem and also maybe how to then address that. Now, this video is predominantly for non-gambling partners, but if you're watching this as one of my regular viewers, then maybe this would be a sort of an aid to explaining some of the more sort of difficult parts, because I know when I first opened up to my wife, how hard it was sometimes to explain, both in terms of actually trying to sort of explain the feelings and explaining how our gambler's brain works, but also actually just the difficulty in confronting your problems and explaining the mistakes that you've made. So I think the first thing to really look at is how to identify if your partner is gambling. Now, the most obvious one is obviously if they have no money a lot of the time. Now, I will say before any of these points, most of these things can be explained through other circumstances. A lot of time people will say, I thought my husband was actually having an affair, but it turns out he was gambling. I'm not, to be completely honest, sure what's worse, but a lack of money, having to borrow from friends, having to borrow from family, and the resulting excuses that are generally made for having a lack of money. Expenses that you haven't seen or experienced or have any real evidence for. Typically, these would be car repairs. Also, the amount of times that when I was gambling, my company screwed up my wages. Now, I can honestly say, hand on heart, the company I work for have been fantastic, and they've never messed up my wages. So, but the amount of times, if you ask my wife prior to me opening up, they would have thought they had the worst HR department in the world because I was always getting paid late, or I'd always been paid too little, or I'd not received my overtime, or whatever. Okay, poor explanations of not having any money, or no explanation at all, but a lack of desire to do anything that costs money. Now, actually, that can be extended beyond the whole point of being skint. A lot of times, I've spoken in some of my previous videos, if you care to watch them, gamblers will resist spending money on normal everyday things. That could be groceries, it could be going out and doing nice things, going out for dinner, going out for drinks with friends, going out to the cinema, or whatever you normally enjoy doing. Quite often a gambler will be reluctant to spend that money on these normal or fun recreational things because they have earmarked that money as gambling money. So a reluctance to spend money, or an inability to inexplicably not be able to afford things. That's certainly one thing to look out for. Random mood swings. Now, this is one I'll be careful with. It's an incredibly strong factor, but also it can again be explained by other things. Consistent bad days at work. I do have, as everyone does, bad days at work. I think we all do. But if these are consistent and out of the blue, and if your partner is finding it very hard to explain why their day at work was so bad, again, this could be an indication. As could being home late from work, particularly if the two align. If someone is consistently coming home and they're late back from work, and they come home and they're flustered and they're stressed and they're short-tempered, and they have no explanation as to why the day was so long, why they had to put the overtime in, why they're so stressed with work, then again, this could be a sign that they're gambling on their way home. Again, something I used to do, stop at the bookies and go on and play the Fobsy machines, or stop at the pub, play the fruit machines. I used to come home obviously in a bad mood, unable to really explain why my day had been so bad, but repeatedly explained it away as a bad day at work, and to such a point, I think my wife was starting to suggest that I start looking for other work, even though I actually quite enjoy my work, and my company that I work for are very, very good. So be aware of that. A lot of secrecy, particularly around devices. If someone's gambling online, you might find that they're on their phone a lot, but they're tilting it away from you. Might be on their laptop. Might be waiting for you to go to bed, and then you'll hear them, on the laptop or something like that. Basically, gambling in your presence, but ensuring that you don't actually see, what they're doing. Again, this is another one I used to do. I used to sit there, subtly having a few spins on a slot game on the casino on my phone while me and my wife were watching telly. And I think probably at this point she probably did think I was maybe having an affair, or maybe she just thought I was being incredibly rude. But if your partner is very secretive about their devices, very secretive about what they're doing online, and if they always insist on staying up after you when you go to bed, then again, this could be a sign that they're using an extra bit of time to have a gamble. Now, I will again preface this and say, be careful. Obviously, this isn't stone cold or stone hard. What the hell am I on about? Rock solid. That'll do. Rock solid evidence that, of course, your partner is gambling. I, for example, nearly always go to bed after my wife, and that's not because I'm gambling. It's because actually she just likes to go to bed and read. I like to stay up and watch crap on YouTube for a bit. So again, it's not solid evidence that they are a gambler, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on. Irrational mood swings, like I say. Another one is, and this is very much a time sensitive one, when I used to bet on football on a Saturday or a Sunday. If you find during those periods, pretty much under normal circumstances, between sort of 3 and 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and your partner is incessantly checking their phone every couple of minutes, or they seem to have developed an irrational or uncharacteristic interest or obsession with football, or obsession with any sport in general, which didn't exist before, and they're checking their phone regularly for scores and updates, then there's a good chance that they've got money riding on that. And again, that's not guaranteed. Maybe they have just taken up more of an interest in sport, or maybe they are actually having a small bet and actually checking the scores to see if their bet's coming in. And there's nothing wrong with that as such. But if they're hiding what they're doing, if they're not telling you they've got a bet on, if they've said, oh yeah, I've got a £5 ACCA, and I'm waiting for one team to score, fine. If they're open and honest about their gambling, and hopefully they'll be honest about all their gambling. But again, if they're hiding it and they're not willing to tell you what they're doing, they're saying, oh, I've got a text from a friend or something, but they're checking it every 2 minutes. Might be having an affair, but there's a good chance that they are gambling. So what happens when you do discover that your partner is gambling? Well, of course, you can confront them about it. The problem with this lies in that you cannot commit a gambler to recovery through any means of your own. They have to want to quit gambling. They have to be committed to quitting gambling. I knew that I had to stop. People around me knew that I had to stop. A lot of people that I associated with, a lot of my friends, a lot of the people in the local pub, and my family as well, knew that I was gambling too much, and they could see the effect it was having on me because of all the factors I've mentioned previously. But unfortunately, until the gambler themselves wants to stop, not needs to stop, wants to stop, you're not going to have any success, and it's just going to continue to cause conflict. So at that point, you have to decide, and sort of actually start making bigger decisions about your relationship with this person. Most important thing, and speaking as someone who's been on the wrong end of this, is do not enable that person to gamble. Okay, a gambler will lie, beg, steal, borrow, do whatever it takes to get money to gamble. Even if they're on their knees begging to borrow money, if they're pleading with you, don't enable their gambling. Now, I'm not saying let them starve. If they come to you and say, look, I can't, I've done all my wages, I can't get to work tomorrow, can you lend me some money for petrol? Okay, don't lend them money for petrol, but don't let them lose their job either. Help them out. Take them to the petrol station. Blimey, take their car yourself to the petrol station and put some money in it that is going to be enough to get them to work and back for the foreseeable future. Okay, if you want to help them out, obviously it's not your problem, but if you want to help them out, then help them out the direct way. If they haven't got any food, then buy them food, or give them some money for food, but demand to see a receipt for what they've bought. Okay, don't just give them cash. Don't give them handout. Don't give them loans. Okay, however much they ask, because that will just enable them to gamble, and they'll see you as a lifeline. Now, my old boss, I say my old boss actually, it's my current boss, said this to me once, and I texted him on a Sunday night after a mammoth session of gambling and an absolute disaster. I actually texted him on a Sunday night saying, look, can you borrow some money? Can you lend me some money? Can I have an advance on my wages? And he said, Phil, I will help you out if you need helping out. He said, but I'm not enabling you to gamble, because he knew I'd spoken to him previously about my problem. So he said, I will forward you some money, but I will want to speak to your wife first, so she knows you've got this money and she can take care of this money for you. And that was the best thing he could have done, because otherwise he would have sent me that money, cash advance, and the very next day I would have been back gambling. Because I know that the urge, when there's money sitting there, would have been too strong for me to resist, and I would have gone and spent that money. So if you've got a partner, a friend, a family member, whoever you're looking after, whoever you're concerned about, do not enable their gambling by giving them, lending them, or giving them unnecessary access to money. And on the back of that, don't let this get to you. Don't use your money. Don't let this have a significantly negative effect on your life. Of course, if you're married to a gambler, if you're in a long-term relationship with a gambler, and you want to help them, and you're happy to try and help them, and they are showing all the signs that they want to help themselves and they want to get themselves into recovery, then it will have a negative impact on you. And to you people who are sticking around and helping people in their recovery, I can only say from the bottom of my heart, thank you very, very much. Gambling is a horrible addiction, but we have to take responsibility for that. And for those who are happy to stay around and help us, and by the risk using a cliche, to help us help ourselves in recovery, massively appreciative, because I can imagine I wasn't the best person to be around when I started my recovery. Certainly towards the tail end of my gambling, I certainly wouldn't have been the best person to be around. So if you want to stick about, if you want to help, then do that by listening, and actually help out by being mean. Take control of the finances if you're married, or you share an account, share bills. Don't provide unnecessary loans or anything like that. And actually enable this gambling. There is support out there for partners of gambling addicts. There's an organisation called Gamma Non, not to be confused with Gamblers Anonymous, which obviously is for gamblers, but Gamma Non, I'll find a link and stick it in the description, is there to support those living with gambling addicts. But like I say, accept that if you choose to help, to stay around and help, it will be difficult. But if the person shows willing, then it might be worth giving them the benefit of the doubt, working on this together. Because I know for a fact that my wife has been an absolute rock for me, and I'm almost certain I would have relapsed if it wasn't for her. So thank you to all of you guys. Thanks for watching. Before I well up and get all emotional, I shall say bid you adieu, but I'll catch you on the next one. See you soon.